Hello everyone, and welcome back to True Crime Mysteries. Today we have our November Crimes of the Month. In our Crimes of the Month series, we cover updates from previous cases, notable crimes covered in the news, and crime-related things that happened that month. As always, your friendly reminder to give this video a like if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already because we make more content like this. But with that being said, let's get into it. Since 2004. The University of Massachusetts Amherst student appeared to have gone on a last-minute trip to New Hampshire, but got into a car accident along the way. She disappeared on February 4th and has been missing for 17 years. Her disappearance has been the subject of several documentaries and podcasts due to the mysterious nature of her trip. She hadn't told anyone she was going anywhere, but had sent an email to a professor saying she was taking a week off of classes to attend a funeral of a close relative, which had been a lie. Over the years, several leads have given her family hope that one day there would be answers to Maura's disappearance, but each time those leads have led to disappointment. And earlier this month, there had been renewed hopes when human skeletal remains were found near Loon Mountain. Maura had been an avid hiker and was an incredibly athletic person. Loon Mountain had also been a place she had hiked often as a child, and it was a familiar place. It had long been hypothesized that Maura had intended to go to the Berkshire and Burlington, Vermont, based on maps she had searched on her computer the day before she left. Based on the evidence at the scene, Maura had taken a hairpin turn, and due to the recent snowy and icy conditions, her car slipped and she veered off the road and into a tree. Several witnesses had seen a young woman who didn't appear to be dressed for the snowy weather pacing outside her vehicle. There was no cell service on that stretch of highway. When officers arrived 15 minutes later, she was gone. Earlier this month, remains had been found by construction workers, and early news reports had suggested they might belong to the missing young woman. It has been concluded that there is no way these remains could belong to Maura Murray. Carbon dating has placed the remains much older than the 2000s. Potentially this body was from the 1940s. Her sister said in a statement, "I urge the NHSP to work tirelessly until the remains can be identified, so that peace may be given to their loved ones. My family will continue to search for Maura, and they will leave no stone unturned until we bring her home and hold accountable those who are responsible for her disappearance." While a disappointing blow to Maura's investigation, it does keep her disappearance in the news, and there's always hope that someone remembers something that they may not know will be helpful to the investigation. If you have any information about Maura Murray, you are asked to contact the New Hampshire Police Department. TikTok star Ali Abulaban, more commonly known by his social media handle as Kid, had been kicked out of the condo he shared with his wife and daughter in San Diego, California. She wanted a divorce. Ali had secretly kept a key to the apartment and had also placed a listening app on his 5-year-old daughter's iPad and had taken to spying on his ex-partner Anna. On October 21st, he had been listening and heard Anna and a man talking. He went back to the apartment, unlocked the door, and shot Rayburn Cardenas Barron, 29, and his ex-wife Anna. He then picked up his daughter from school and called his mother to confess, and also called the police. He was arrested 45 minutes later with his daughter in the vehicle.
And he was arrested near the 805 and the 15 yesterday. Police tell us inside the car they found a weapon and the suspect's 5-year-old daughter. Here's what neighbors told us today.
Everyone's scared. There's a lot of trust issues going on right now.
It is tragic, it's a tragic, and especially if there's children involved in it, it's sad. It's so sad.
Anna had previously called the police and reported domestic violence against Ali, when she claimed that he had pushed her and had wanted to obtain a restraining order against him but didn't get the chance. He had also allegedly come back a day after she kicked him out and had trashed their condo, smashing belongings and destroying furniture. It was only 3 days after the break-in that he murdered her and her friend. He was in court days later and has pleaded not guilty to the murder of Anna and Baron, despite having already confessed to law enforcement. He faces life in prison for the double murder charges, and a trial has not been set yet, but he is being held in custody while he awaits trial.
Pictures of Ali Abulaban and his cousin Louis. They've been close since they were little kids. Ali is being held without bail in the downtown jail. He could face the death penalty if convicted.
It's really sad to say, but I hate him. I have so much anger towards him, and I hope that they punish him to the full extent of the law, because he deserves.
This morning, the world wants to know, where is Peng Shuai, the tennis star not seen or heard from in public for weeks, since accusing a former senior Communist Party official of sexual assault.
Growing safety concerns for the world-renowned tennis player Peng Shuai of China, the 35-year-old champion doubles tennis athlete, took to social media earlier this month alleging sexual abuse from one of China's top government officials, Zhang Gaoli. She said in a statement, "I know that someone in your eminence, Vice Premier Zhang Guili, you'll say that you are not afraid, but even if it's just striking a stone with a pebble, or a moth attacking a flame and courting self-destruction, I will tell the truth about you." Her claims were that she had been asked to give a private tennis lesson at the former vice premier's home, and he forced her into non-consensual relations. She went on to say she was later forced into a relationship with him. Her statements were live for only a short time before it was scrubbed from China's heavily censored internet. Those screenshots still remain. After her statement, she disappeared, drawing concerns she had received backlash for speaking out. After weeks of silence from Peng, her story started taking off on Twitter with the trending hashtag #WhereIsPengShui gaining traction. Several other tennis pros retweeted several statements, and that prompted the Women's Tennis Association to get involved, threatening to withdraw all events from China if Peng's allegations are not investigated fully, fairly, and without censorship. Chinese officials responded in statements saying that this was not a foreign affairs matter and refused to address the subject. Though Chinese media has been circulating photos of Peng in what appear to be a private residence, though there is no way of knowing when the photos were taken, and in one of the photos there is a mouse cursor visible, making it clear that these are screenshots. An email was also sent to the WTA claiming to be Peng, but again there is no way to authenticate that it was actually Peng who penned the email. The UN is now getting involved, trying to confirm if Peng is safe. This is the first prominent person in China to disappear after coming forward with their Me Too story. The WTA is asking to speak with Peng directly. China is also set to host the Beijing Olympics in February 2022. Julius Jones, who was convicted of the 1999 murder of Paul Howell, has been granted clemency and his execution has been halted. Jones, who has maintained his innocence, was scheduled to be executed at 4 p.m. on November 18th at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. At 12:45 p.m. during his final visit with his attorneys, he was notified of the clemency. Jones had been on death row for almost 20 years. In a holding cell outside the execution chamber for 2 weeks, and had already been served his last meal. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt granted clemency to Jones after prayerful consideration and reviewing materials presented by all sides of the case. Jones will instead receive life in prison without possibility of parole. Jones's clemency petition claimed he was on death row due to fundamental breakdowns in the system tasked with deciding whether or not he was guilty or not, including inexperienced defense attorneys, racial bias in the jury, and prosecutorial misconduct. Over the years, Jones's death sentence has garnered protests and media attention. A Change.org petition titled Justice for Julius, which demanded Governor Stitt prevent Jones's execution, garnered over 6 million signatures. A light has also shone on his case in the 2018 ABC documentary series The Last Defense. Celebrities including Kim Kardashian, actress Kerry Washington, actor Mandy Patinkin, and Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield have also advocated against his execution. Jones was tried alongside Christopher Jordan as a co-defendant. Jordan was sentenced to prison for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit a robbery and testified against Jones, saying he was an accomplice. There's conflicting evidence in this case, including inconsistent alibis. The victim's sister, who was present at the time of the shooting, described the shooter as a black man wearing a red bandana over his face. The murder weapon was later found in Jones's home, wrapped in a red bandana. Some have speculated that Jordan hid the gun and bandana inside Jones's home after spending the night there, though the major component of the DNA on the red bandana matched Jones and excluded Jordan. There was also a picture taken of Jones of the day of the murder, which did not match the victim's sister's description of the shooter. Jordan served his sentence completely and was released from prison in 2014, and Jones will serve a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Paul Howell's family believe Jones is guilty of the murder. 20-year-old Christopher Belter, who pleaded guilty to the rape and sexual assault of 4 teenage girls, has been sentenced to 8 years of probation and must register as a sex offender after New York State Judge Matthew J. Murphy claimed that sending Belter to jail would be inappropriate.
I agonized. I'm not ashamed to say that I actually prayed over what is the appropriate sentence in this case. There was great pain, there was great harm, there were multiple crimes committed in the case. And it seems to me that a sentence that involves incarceration or partial incarceration is inappropriate.
In 2019, Belter was charged for his crimes and entered a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to attempted first-degree sexual abuse, third-degree rape, and 2 counts of second-degree sexual abuse. The 4 separate incidents occurred in 2017 and 2018, while Belter and all of his victims were under 18. An order of protection was also issued on the first-degree sexual abuse charge. Belter was placed under interim probation for 2 years, which he violated when he bypassed software on his computer to access pornography. Judge Murphy then denied him the youthful offender status and ordered him to be tried as an adult. One of Belter's victims, only known as MM, shared her testimony in a court hearing and said that she was disgusted by the sentence, saying, "The judge had the opportunity to put out the fire, but he chose to let it keep burning." Another victim, known as Jane Doe, called the sentence a miscarriage of justice. When asked why she thought Judge Murphy chose probation over imprisonment, she responded, "In my heart, unfortunately, I think he, Judge Murphy, empathized with Christopher, and that is a really sick idea to have to imagine." Judge Murphy, who's scheduled to retire in December 2021, said he prayed over what is the most appropriate sentence in this case because there was a great pain, before stating that a sentence that includes incarceration or partial incarceration isn't appropriate. In a response, Jane Doe, a lifelong Christian, said she has trouble believing that they pray to the same God.
He is privileged, he comes from money, he is white, and for an adult to get away with these crimes without doing jail time is unjust.
In Dallas County, Missouri, one of 2 men suspected of kidnapping and killing a missing woman named Cassidy Rainwater has pleaded not guilty to the newest charges issued against him. On November 17, 2021, Timothy Norton was charged with first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse. On December 23rd, his defense attorney entered a plea of not guilty. Cassidy Rainwater was last seen alive in July of 2021 and reported missing in late August.
This case is making national news, and it's heartbreaking. There are reports of her being photographed partially naked in a cage. And of course, she's still missing.
In September, detectives spoke with a man named James Phelps, who said Cassidy was staying with him until she left suddenly, and that he hadn't heard from her since. Soon after, they identified Timothy Norton, a friend of James Phelps, as being involved in the case as well. A few weeks later, the FBI provided the Dallas County Sheriff's Office with pictures received through a cyber tip. The photos showed Cassidy alive and partially nude in a cage. There were also photos of her body tied to a gantry crane device, which is used to process wild game. The items in the picture matched items from Phelps' property. Phelps and Norton were arrested and then charged with felony kidnapping. While Phelps refused to answer any questions without an attorney, Norton told police that Phelps invited him to the property, where they attacked Cassidy while she was asleep, strangled her, and dismembered her body. Police found evidence at Phelps' property, including the crane, blood evidence, and what appeared to be human flesh in the freezer, dated July 24th. Lab tests confirmed the items matched Cassidy's DNA. Soon after, police found skeletal remains on the adjoining property, which were also confirmed to be Cassidy Rainwater. Norton is currently being held in the Greene County Jail and has a preliminary hearing date set for February 2nd, 2022. Phelps has been denied a request to set a bond. He will remain in the Dallas County Jail until his trial, and is a hearing set for December 17th, 2021. Steve Pankey, who was on trial for the 1984 murder of 12-year-old Jonelle Matthews, has been convicted of false reporting to authorities, but not of murder. The deadlocked jury could not come to a consensus on the remaining charges filed against him, which included first-degree murder after deliberation, felony murder, and second-degree kidnapping. Prosecutors have announced their intentions to pursue a new trial focusing on the murder. Jonelle was last seen outside her home on December 20th, 1984 in Greenlee, Colorado, after being dropped off from a Christmas concert. Her father came home an hour later to find Jonelle missing. In July of 2019, crews discovered Jonelle's remains while digging at an oil site in Weld County. She had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Pankey became a suspect shortly before this when he claimed to have information about what happened to her and requested immunity from prosecution. Pankey had inserted himself into the investigation multiple times over the years, and prosecutors claimed Pankey exhibited strange behavior during Jonelle's disappearance, including driving to the area where her body would eventually be found multiple times. Pankey was indicted in October 2020 on murder in the first degree after deliberation, murder in the first degree / felony murder, second-degree kidnapping, and 2 crimes of violent charges. While there is no DNA evidence connecting Pankey to the crime, prosecutors say there's enough circumstantial evidence and direct evidence to show he's responsible for Jonelle's death. Pankey's defense team said that although Pankey was a paranoid true crime junkie who had been obsessed with the case, it doesn't mean he's a killer.
Now, Pankey was arrested yesterday at his Idaho home. He had also run for governor of Idaho several times. He made his first court appearance this afternoon and chose not to fight his extradition back to Colorado. He said, quote, he wanted to get this done as quickly as possible.
Pankey himself took to the stand during the trial and admitted he was a liar and self-proclaimed master manipulator, but claimed he didn't kill Jonelle. He said he only claimed to know the information about the case in an attempt to get other people he hated investigated for the crime. Pankey's next scheduled court date is February 8th in Weld County, Colorado. Malcolm X, an African-American Muslim minister, human rights activist, and prominent figure in the civil rights movement, was shot and killed on February 21, 1965, while on stage in the Abulaban Ballroom in New York. At the time of Malcolm X's assassination, Muhammad A. Aziz and the late Khalil Islam were civil rights activists known as Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson. They, along with a third man named Thomas Hagen, were convicted of Malcolm X's murder in 1966 and sentenced to life in prison. Muhammad and Khalil maintained their innocence, while Halim confessed to taking part in the assassination and testified that Muhammad and Khalil were not involved. Muhammad was released from prison in 1985 and Khalil was released in 1987. Khalil later passed away in 2009. There was no physical evidence that Mohammed or Khalil were responsible for or involved in the assassination. At the time, Mohammed also had an alibi, as he was at home with an injured leg. In 2020, the Netflix documentary Who Killed Malcolm X featured Mohammed and drew interest in the Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance. Mohammed and Khalil's lawyers, along with Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance's office, conducted a 22-month investigation into the case and found evidence supporting Mohammed and Khalil's innocence. The investigation, which was supported by the nonprofit Innocence Project, found that key evidence was withheld from the initial police investigation, which would have acquitted the men. On Thursday, November 18, 2021, New York County Supreme Court Administrative Judge Ellen Biden granted the motion to vacate Mohammed and Khalil's convictions.
Two men who each served 20 years in prison for the murder of Malcolm X have finally had their names cleared.
An investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney reveals critical evidence was withheld during their trial more than 50 years ago. Evidence that would have changed the course of history well before today.
After the exoneration was announced, Mohammed, now 83, said, "The events that brought us to court today should never have occurred. Those events were and are the result of a process that was corrupt to its core, one that is all too familiar to Black people in 2021.
I'm an 83-year-old man who was victimized by the criminal justice system."
Also exonerated Khalil Islam, but it's too late for him to appreciate it. He died in 2009. His son says the family has suffered.
Imagine growing up worrying about this every single day of your life.
A simple hand signal recently saved a teenage girl in North Carolina who'd been reported missing by her parents 2 days earlier. The 16-year-old had been kidnapped by a man named James Herbert Brick, 61. Police reports state that the girl originally went with Brick willingly, but she soon got scared and wanted to escape. Brick and the girl traveled through multiple states together, even staying with his relatives in Ohio until they realized she was underage and had been reported missing. On November 4th, the pair left the state, and while traveling down I-75, the girl began trying to get the attention of other motorists for help. The driver behind them noticed the girl in the car making a hand signal that she recognized from the social media platform TikTok. The signal was designed to communicate violence at home, I need help, domestic violence. It involves putting your hand up with your palm out, tucking your thumb into your open palm, then folding your fingers down over the thumb. The driver then called 911 and reported seeing the girl flash the sign, saying she appeared to be in distress and was accompanied by an older male. The driver then followed the car and gave the 911 dispatch operator mile markers as they passed by them.
I've been following this Toyota Corolla from Madison County. This female on the passenger side, brunette, motioning for help, call 911.
She was giving the TikTok signal, the hand gesture signifying that she needed help.
Through this information, police were able to identify and stop the vehicle as it exited the highway. Brick was arrested at the scene and charged with unlawful imprisonment. He was booked at the Laurel County Correction Center on a $10,000 bond. The hand signal used by the teenage girl originated from the Signal for Help campaign launched by the Canadian Women's Foundation in 2020. The signal was initially created as a way for women to silently alert others to trouble or abuse happening at home during the pandemic, but the usage has since expanded to anyone in distress. Well, that is it for this video. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on topics they wanted to be covered this month. I can't always see all your comments. If I don't respond to your comment, feel free to always email, tweet, or DM me. Anyways, as always, please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you have done all that and want to support me in the channel, we have channel membership as well as Patreon to get early access, members only content, and more. We also have merch and other goodies in the description box, as well as links to all my socials. But until then, I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.